In the context of the modern world, with the constant transformation of technology, society, and even human thought, we are increasingly witnessing a widespread phenomenon of a value crisis. It is precisely at this time that the philosophical reflections of eminent philosophers become even more essential, serving as beacons of light amidst the chaotic darkness of the era. One of the most famous thinkers who raised difficult questions about the meaning of life, the role of traditional values, and the path to self-affirmation is Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher whose ideas are controversial but also deeply evocative and inspiring. Nietzsche, through his works and words, is not simply a critic of outdated values, but he also opens up a profound journey of thought aimed at encouraging people to create new values for themselves, transcending the limitations imposed by society and history. He argued that the death of God, a famous metaphor for the collapse of traditional religious and moral values, opened the door to a human crisis, but also created an opportunity for people to redefine themselves by revaluing all values. These ideas not only reflect an existing reality of society, but also a powerful call for individual freedom, for a will to power to affirm and overcome the intrinsic limitations of human beings. In modern society, we witness many manifestations of a loss of faith, of a sense of isolation and aimlessness in life. The phenomenal development of technology, while bringing countless conveniences and advances, also gradually draws people into spirals of negativity, of feelings of emptiness and meaninglessness. Many young people, amidst a society busy with a fast-paced life, ask difficult questions about the purpose of life. Who am I? What is the true value of life? How can I overcome the confusion of old standards and create my own path? These are the very issues that Nietzsche raised and dissected through his philosophical lens. Nietzsche argued that the collapse of old values is not only the end of a system of thought, but also the starting point for a spiritual revolution. He argued that when people realize that the values they once cherished and pursued have become obsolete, they will feel lost, confused, and faced with a sense of nothingness, the so-called nihilism. However, it is from that painful realization that people can find the strength to overcome themselves, to create new values that are appropriate to the modern context, and more importantly, appropriate to their true selves. This is also the core message in Nietzsche's philosophy: become who you are, a powerful call to all those who feel oppressed by foreign values and are ready to affirm their power, will, and personal freedom. Revaluing all values is not simple. It requires each person to bravely face their own fears, internal contradictions, and the emptiness when old ideological empires collapse. Nietzsche warned that without commitment, without the courage to face the truth, people will remain immersed in the emptiness of life, losing the ability to self-shape and be autonomous. He argued that each individual needs to become a creator of values, someone who can re-examine the past, choose, and create new values based on a deep understanding of themselves and the world around them. In the context of modern society, where change occurs at a rapid pace and traditional values seem to be losing their influence, Nietzsche's philosophy is becoming more meaningful than ever. When the old value systems no longer meet the needs of people, it is his philosophy of creating your own values that is the invitation to open a new horizon, where people can freely create and explore themselves fully. Therefore, understanding and analyzing Nietzsche's philosophy is not only academic, but also has profound practical value for each individual seeking a self-directed and meaningful life. Besides, Nietzsche's philosophy also suggests deep reflections on the role of art, culture, and creative thinking in shaping the values of life. He once said that art is not only a reflection of reality, but also a tool to overcome the void, to transform pain, contradictions, and crises into creative inspiration, turning them into motivation to move forward and affirm oneself. This is an important message for those who feel trapped in the vortex of modern life, where pressure from work, society, and even invisible expectations leave us without enough vitality to seek joy and true meaning. In this introduction, we have only just begun to touch the surface of the difficult issues that Nietzsche's philosophy raises. From the loss of traditional values to the rise of nihilism, to the powerful call for self-affirmation and the creation of new values, all are topics that each modern individual must reflect on and confront. These issues form the foundation for a profound journey of exploration into Nietzsche's thought, a journey that does not stop at abstract theories, but also aims to apply those philosophies to everyday life, to the decisions, actions, and even the way we see ourselves. Thus, from the very first lines, this article has opened up a vast space for thought, where the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche is placed in the context of modern life, full of contradictions, challenges, and opportunities. Each word, each argument of his is like a challenge to prejudices, outdated values, and also a source of motivation for us to embark on a journey to find and affirm the true values of ourselves. Through this, we realize that the problem of values and meaning in life is not only a philosophical problem, but also a matter of survival for each individual. When traditional values gradually fade away, when old standards are no longer able to shape people in modern society, it is the freedom of creativity, the ability to self-evaluate and regenerate new values that will be the key to opening the door to a more complete life. And Nietzsche's philosophy is a reminder that even though life is full of challenges, losses, and even a feeling of uncertainty, each person can always find the strength to rise above themselves, to create a new value from the fragments of the past. These initial reflections on this issue have raised a big question. Do modern people have enough courage to face the harsh truth of life, to abandon outdated values and draw a new picture of the meaning of existence for themselves? That question is not only a problem of an era, but also an invitation to each individual to question themselves, to find their own path without depending on prejudices or foreign pressures. This is the crux of Nietzsche's philosophy, a philosophy that is not safe but full of potential to liberate and change life. In this introduction, we cannot fail to mention the profound impact that Nietzsche's philosophy has had on many fields, from art, culture, to modern thinking. His works have become an endless source of inspiration for writers, painters, musicians, and even those who are looking for a path of personal freedom in a society full of constraints. Therefore, analyzing and thoroughly understanding Nietzsche's philosophy not only helps us to better understand the history of human thought, but also opens up new directions for modern life, for those who dare to ask questions and constantly explore. Thus, from the initial introduction, the article has portrayed the context of an era full of contradictions, where old values have gradually lost their influence, and where each individual must face a crisis of meaning and life values. This is the central issue that we will analyze and reflect on together in the following sections of the article. Through this, not only will readers have a comprehensive view of Nietzsche's philosophy, but it also opens up a space for each individual to self-define and create new values for their own life. 1. Nihilism, the collapse of old values. In the context of the modern era, the death of God that Nietzsche speaks of is not merely the abandonment of religious belief, but also a sign that the system of traditional values has gradually lost its ability to guide people. He argues that when these values collapse, people not only lose the moral basis for defining their lifestyle, but also fall into a state of nihilism, a feeling of emptiness, of being lost in a sea of countless choices and social pressures. Nietzsche warned that nihilism is not a temporary state or reserved only for the weak, but it is a widespread phenomenon when old values no longer meet the spiritual and intellectual needs of human beings. This turmoil prompts each individual to seek and redefine the meaning of life for themselves, thereby discovering the inner strength to overcome the feeling of being lost. In the process, each person is called to face their deepest fears, accepting that there is no single truth or common value that can define people absolutely. 2. Will to power, the desire to transcend limits. One of the central concepts in Nietzsche's philosophy is the will to power. According to him, this is not just a concept of domination or outward power, but more profoundly, it is the desire to self-affirm, to overcome one's intrinsic limitations and the constraints imposed by society. Will to power is the intrinsic motivation that drives people to constantly seek development, innovation, and self-recreation. Nietzsche recognized that each individual carries within them a life energy that needs to be released, so as not to be limited by outdated standards or ethical norms imposed by society. This transcendence does not mean imposing power on others, but is an internal process where each person discovers and develops their creativity, independently deciding their own path and values. This is a powerful call for each person not to accept a predetermined destiny, but to dare to assert themselves, dare to change, and dare to live in a way that they consider right. 3. The process of revaluing all values. Nietzsche does not simply criticize or reject traditional values. He proposes a process of revaluing all values, an intellectual journey to examine and renew the system of values that humans have built over thousands of years. This process requires each individual to have the courage to question, do these values really serve the comprehensive development of human beings? Revaluation is not destruction, but a process of regeneration, where each person is encouraged to set their own standards, suitable to the current situation and to their true nature. This means eliminating values that are no longer appropriate, replacing them with new values built on a deep understanding of oneself and the world around them. This process is not easy, as it requires breaking down patterns that have been deeply ingrained in the mind for generations. But it also opens up opportunities to recreate a society based on freedom, creativity, and autonomy. Number 4. The concept of the Übermensch, Overmen, image of transcendence. Another argument that cannot be ignored in Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of the Übermensch, Overmen. This is an image symbolizing a person who has overcome the constraints of the past, has created new values for themselves, and is no longer dominated by old rules. The Übermensch is not a distant goal, but an ideal state that each individual can aim for through internal training, self-discovery, and affirmation of personal value. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a perfect person in the ordinary sense, but someone who has a clear perception of the world, of the contradictions that exist in life, and knows how to turn those contradictions into motivation for development. They do not accept the existence of nihilism, but instead always seek to exploit inner strength, creating new values that are vital and adaptable to all circumstances. This also emphasizes the importance of constantly surpassing oneself, never stopping in the face of challenges or difficulties. Number 5. Impact on modern society. Nietzsche's philosophy, although built on the foundation of profound and sometimes tragic philosophical reflections, offers valuable lessons for modern society. As life becomes more complex and pressure from technology, society, and individuals increases, Nietzsche's message of creating your own values becomes even more essential. It is a reminder that in a world without fixed values, each person has the right and even the responsibility to discover, build, and affirm their own values. The application of this philosophy in practice is not limited to the realm of thought, but also spreads widely in art, culture, education, and even in the way society is managed. Many creators, from artists to business leaders, have taken inspiration from Nietzsche's ideas to overcome traditional barriers, break down stereotypes, and create new, unique values. This continuous innovation has contributed to enriching the spiritual life of human beings, opening new horizons for creativity and personal freedom. 6. Psychological and spiritual consequences. Besides the theoretical concepts, Nietzsche's philosophy also raises profound psychological issues. When people begin to realize the collapse of old values, they often face feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and sometimes extreme loneliness. However, Nietzsche argues that, in those moments of crisis, there is an untapped source of strength hidden within each person. The process of confronting nihilism and emptiness will stimulate individuals to seek and create new values, contributing to the process of growth and self-improvement. These negative emotions, according to Nietzsche, are not the end, but the beginning of a profound journey of self-discovery. Each person, when overcoming pain and confusion, will gradually realize that in that loss lies the opportunity to be reborn, to reshape themselves and their lives in a more positive direction. This is also a humanitarian message. Stumbling and failure are not scary, but are an essential part of the process of growth and self-improvement. 7. Practical applications and a message for the individual. When looking at Nietzsche's philosophy from a practical perspective, we realize that the message of creating your own values is not just a philosophical call, but also a life strategy for each individual. In a world where old standards are gradually losing their appeal, building and defining the value of life for oneself becomes a matter of survival. This requires each person to constantly question, challenge, and renew themselves. No one can rely entirely on the values that have been passed down from the past. Instead, each person needs to take control of their own life by maximizing potential, creativity, and self-determination. This not only brings freedom, but also helps build a diverse social community, where each individual can contribute in their own way, creating a rich and colorful overall picture of modern life. Thereby, Nietzsche's philosophy becomes a motivation for each person to overcome difficulties, instead of passively accepting a predetermined fate. It emphasizes that, even though life is full of challenges and failures, it is in those dark moments that each individual draws lessons, finds inner strength, and rises up in their own way. 8. The rise of creative and innovative spirit. Another important aspect of Nietzsche's philosophy is the connection between art and the creative spirit. According to him, art is not simply an expression of emotion or formal beauty, but also a means to transform pain, contradictions, and crises into creative power. When people face nihilism, art becomes the only language that helps them express their deepest emotions, while opening the door to recreate and build new values. 9. Reflection in everyday life. Finally, applying Nietzsche's philosophy to everyday life is not just a lesson in thinking, but also a reminder of personal responsibility. When each person dares to self-assess and recreate their values, they not only build a unique personal identity, but also contribute to creating a society where all people can live autonomously and fully. Decisions in life, from work to relationships, from learning to expressing oneself, become more meaningful when each person is free to choose and is not bound by old patterns. Through this, society not only becomes more diverse in thought, but also rich in creativity and innovation. A society where each person can contribute unique values, contributing to enriching the common picture of humanity. Over the previous 2 sections, we have explored together the intellectual journey of Friedrich Nietzsche, from identifying the collapse of traditional values to the process of revaluing all values, in order to open the path of creative freedom for each individual. Nietzsche opened up a new perspective, arguing that the end of an old value system is not a final stopping point, but the starting point for a powerful process of innovation in thinking and living. In the context of modern society, when traditional values gradually lose their appeal and no longer meet the deep spiritual needs of people, Nietzsche's philosophy becomes more necessary than ever. He strongly criticized outdated norms, but also encouraged each individual to assert themselves through the will to power. The desire to overcome limitations, break all constraints, and create new values that are appropriate to their circumstances and nature. Nietzsche warned that when traditional values collapse, people inevitably fall into a state of nihilism, a feeling of emptiness and loss of faith. However, it is in those moments that each person has the opportunity to face themselves, realize their inner strength, and thereby rise to become an Übermensch, a person who is constantly creative, autonomous, and always dares to change in order to seek meaning in life. These arguments do not just stop at the level of abstract philosophy, but also open up profound practical applications. In a world where everything is constantly changing, self-evaluation and value regeneration not only help each individual have an independent lifestyle, but also contribute to creating a diverse, creative, and constantly innovative society. Nietzsche's concept of will to power is an invitation for each person to look inward, unleash latent life energy, and never give up the desire to overcome their limitations. Will to power is not external domination, but the ability to self-determine and take control of life. This is the internal motivation, the source of inspiration that helps people constantly create and affirm their values, no matter how many challenges, failures, or dark silences of the soul they face. In the process of revaluing all values, each individual is encouraged to question the norms that society has imposed from the past, in order to find the values that suit their true self. This is a journey that is not easy, because it requires the courage to face internal contradictions, the fear of loss, and the feeling of being lost when there are no fixed guiding stars. But it is from there, when each person dares to discover and build a new value system, that they truly become creators, masters of their own destiny. Therefore, Nietzsche's philosophy is not simply a criticism of old values, but also a life strategy, a way for each individual to freely develop and recreate themselves through each experience, each continuous step on the journey of self-discovery. It affirms that, in this ever-changing life, there is no single truth or fixed value that can be applied to everyone. Instead, each person must create values that suit themselves. One of the important points that Nietzsche wants to convey is, don't be afraid of nihilism. When traditional values fall into a precarious state, when people have to face feelings of emptiness and loss, that is a valuable time for us to realize that nihilism is not the end, but the beginning of a self-renewal process. It is like a dark night before dawn, a silence for the soul to be recreated, for the mind to be awakened, and for creativity to be maximized. Nietzsche has encouraged us to embrace those difficult moments as opportunities to look back at ourselves, to face pain, failures, and then turn them into motivation to move forward. When you accept that loss and nihilism are only temporary, you will gradually realize that true strength lies in the ability to control your emotions, to control your own life. Each painful experience will become a foundation stone for a stronger individual, an Übermensch, who is constantly learning, constantly rising. This is a message to all those who feel lost and stuck in a society where traditional values seem to have lost their vitality. Let those difficult moments become an inspiration for you to create a new lifestyle, where every decision comes from your soul and your unlimited creativity. The concept of Übermensch, overman, in Nietzsche's philosophy is not a distant goal or an unattainable standard. Instead, it is an ideal state that each individual can strive for through the process of self-training, self-discovery, and continuous self-development. Becoming an Übermensch means that you no longer let external limitations, social prejudices, or outdated standards impose on yourself. You become freer, more creative, and always ready to accept changes to move forward. That journey begins with a clear awareness of your own value, a value that does not depend on external standards, but is built from inner strength, from wisdom, and from the desire to live a meaningful life. To achieve this, each person needs to constantly self-evaluate, self-learn, and always ask questions. Who am I? What makes up the value of my life? How can I turn difficulties into opportunities for development? Through these questions, you gradually realize that life is not a series of random events, but a journey where each step has its own meaning. When you dare to break free from old constraints, when you are willing to face fear and failure, you will discover an inner strength that you may not have realized before. And then, step by step, you will get closer to the state of Übermensch, a person who is constantly learning, constantly recreating themselves, and always ready to face the challenges of life. Not only stopping at theoretical analysis, Nietzsche's philosophy also brings extremely valuable practical lessons for modern life. In an era where the rate of change is accelerating, where technology and media create powerful influences on the way we think and feel about the world, self-building and value regeneration become more essential than ever. Imagine a society where each individual is free to decide, free to create, and not afraid to change. A society where diversity of thought, lifestyles, and personal values are honored, not bound by stereotypes. This is the image that Nietzsche wants to convey, a society without rigid limits, but instead a dynamic, creative, and constantly innovating community. In everyday life, lessons from Nietzsche can be applied through every small decision. From how you face failure to choosing a career path, from how you build personal relationships to how you face social pressure, all need to be revalued and renewed in your own way. This not only helps you become autonomous, but also contributes to creating a strong community where each individual can maximize their potential. Above all, Nietzsche's philosophy sends a powerful message to each person: never stop desiring to live a meaningful life. When old values gradually fade, you, with the will to power and the ability to self-create, are the ones who can create new values, making a fulfilling and worthwhile life. Remember that every difficult moment, every failure, and every pain are bricks for you to build your own identity. No success comes easily, and no path is glorious if you are not willing to go through challenges, learning from your own mistakes. Ask yourself, do I have enough courage to give up outdated values, to step out of my comfort zone, and embark on a journey of self-discovery? If the answer is yes, then you have begun the journey of a value creator, someone who is constantly changing, constantly learning, and always ready to face the challenges of life. And through that, you not only find the true meaning of life, but also contribute to creating a more beautiful world where everyone can freely create and affirm their values. When we stand at the threshold of the future, no one can predict which path will lead to success or which values will endure over time. But what Nietzsche teaches us is, believe in your inner strength and never be afraid of change. Each individual, regardless of the circumstances, has the ability to recreate and shape life in their own way. It is freedom in thought and action that is the key to opening the door to new opportunities, to continuous creations. Imagine a tomorrow when everyone can live the way they choose, not bound by stereotypes, but instead freely create values that bear the imprint of their personality. A day when we no longer live according to the rigid rules of the past, but instead, each step we take is a testament to creativity, to the ability to surpass ourselves. That is the message of Nietzsche's philosophy, a reminder that, even though life is full of uncertainties, each person can always create light for themselves. In summary, Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy has opened up a new horizon of thought, emphasizing that the loss of traditional values is not an end, but an opportunity for each individual to reevaluate, create, and affirm their own value. Through the analysis of nihilism, the will to power, the process of revaluing all values, and the concept of the Übermensch, we see that inner strength, creativity, and the courage to face fear are the keys to helping people overcome all challenges of life. The strong call for the listener today is, dare to face yourself, dare to give up old values that are no longer appropriate, and open your heart to embrace new values. Turn every failure into a lesson, every difficulty into motivation to move forward. Live fully, freely, and creatively, because only in that way can you create a meaningful and unique life. In every moment of life, remember that you are the master of your destiny. Never let prejudices, rigid norms, or fear control you. Discover for yourself, create new values for yourself, and through that, not only enhance your value, but also contribute to enriching the entire community, making society more progressive. Finally, the message that Nietzsche leaves us is not only a philosophy, but also a reminder of freedom, of the ability to rise above all limitations. Believe that, even though the road ahead is full of thorns and storms, your inner strength, the strength built from belief, will, and the desire to live, will always be an invaluable motivation for you to move forward. Remember that life is a continuous journey of searching and recreating. Do not be afraid of change. Do not be afraid of loss, because that is the opportunity for you to learn, to grow, and to create a better version of yourself. In every second, every moment, listen to the call from within, the call of your soul, of the longing for freedom and creativity. If you feel lost among the old values, if you find that life is becoming soulless and lacking enthusiasm, remember that you can change everything. Become a value creator, someone who is constantly committed to the journey of self-discovery, and through that, open up a new horizon for yourself and for those around you, a future full of hope and creativity. Dare to dream, dare to challenge, and dare to assert yourself. Because every step, no matter how small, can create big changes. And even if the road ahead is full of difficulties, believe that the power of will and the ability to take control of life will always lead you to the light of knowledge, of freedom, and of a meaningful life.